Bye-bye sadness. Little Willie was 5 years old when destiny came calling. He was sitting in the kitchen with his parents, eating dinner, when the phone rang. "Little Willie," said his mother, "go get that, will you?" So Little Willie stood and ran into the kitchen, where the phone hung on the wall. He removed it from the cradle and lifted it to his ear. "Dixon residence, Little Willie speaking." Now the person on the other side of the phone didn't say, "Little Willie, listen, I'm calling about your destiny." It wasn't anything like that. "Hi there, Little Willie," said the man on the other side of the phone. "Is your mommy or daddy around?" Little Willie set the phone down on the counter and ran into the dining room and said, "Mom, Dad, the phone is for you." After some eye glances back and forth, his mom stood and picked up the phone from the counter as Little Willie watched her from the doorway. "This is Nancy," she said. "Uh-huh," she said. "Yes, sir," she said. "Yes, sir," she said again. "He what?" And then she dropped the phone. Though it did not fall to the ground, the coils of the cord extended until the phone was inches away from the floor before being yanked upwards and colliding with the wall, then dropping again. This time, Little Willie's mother, Nancy Dixon, fell with it. She let out a scream that caused her husband to put down his fork after eating everything that was on it and swallowing it down, chasing the bite with a long swig of beer, and came running into the room. "God damn it, Nancy! You just scared me half to death! What are you screaming about?" But his wife did not answer. Instead, she just pointed at the phone still dangling from the wall. He looked at her, then looked at the phone. Shaking his head, he bent over and picked up the phone. "This is Dan." According to the man on the other side of the phone, Little Willie's brother had been riding bicycles near the beach with a friend of his when a car went off the road and into a large crowd of people, killing dozens. Little Willie's brother was among the dead. In the months that followed his brother's burial, his mother refused to get out of bed, and his father only ever returned home in a drunken stupor. As a result, Little Willie had become the family caregiver. He would bring his mother meals in bed, and when his father returned home and passed down on the couch, Little Willie was the one to remove his shoes and socks and cover him in a blanket and provide him with a pillow. He also took over responsibility for looking after his younger sisters. He rocked them as they cried and changed their diapers and read stories to them before bed. Finding joy in these new responsibilities, he expanded his role of nurturer outside of the house. At school, when he saw kids crying on the playground, he comforted them. In the classroom, when he saw his teachers overwhelmed, he would stand at the front of the class and quiet his friends. He stayed in the cafeteria after lunch to help the custodians clean. The happiness of others had become his only concern. He believed it to be his responsibility to bring happiness to the world. When asked in the second grade, "Little Willie, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Little Willie said, "Sir, I want to cure sadness," though he didn't quite know how he was going to do it. After all, there was a lot of sadness in the world, and Little Willie was just a kid. Later that year, the Scholastic Book Fair visited Little Willie's school. His father had given him $20 the day prior, which was to be spent on his food for the week, but instead Little Willie spent it on a pair of books, both of which, in their own right, changed his view of the world forever. Those books were Brave New World and The Giver. His teacher considered both of them far too advanced for a kid his age. But then again, he had always been incredibly advanced for his age, and he ended up reading both books that very same night. Together, they opened his mind to the possibility of an evolving world, a changing world, a better world. They exposed him for the first time to the magic of science. He began to ponder the ways in which this magic could be harnessed for good, for change, for the creation of happiness, for the eradication of sadness. He couldn't get enough of these fictional worlds. He loved the way that Huxley and Lowry used science to craft futuristic worlds, the way they crafted entirely new societies with their creations, how they gave the people happiness. And he craved more of it. And so, from that day forward, Little Willie spent every recess and lunch break inside the school library, reading every book he could get his hands on. And when he was asked later what he wanted to be when he grew up, his answer remained the same as before. Only now, it had become a little more specific. "I'm going to be a scientist who cures all the sadness in the world." though when asked what sort of scientist he wanted to be, he did not yet know. That is, until his fourth grade teacher invited all of the students' parents to share with the class what they did for work. Little Willie found this day fascinating, as he was eager to learn about the possible ways he could bring happiness to the world. There were parents who were accountants, and parents who were therapists. There were parents who were plumbers, and parents who were bartenders. But it wasn't until Maurice's mother arrived that little Willie found what he was looking for. She arrived late to class. In fact, the presentations had already ended, and the children were already enjoying cookies and hot cocoa with their parents when she arrived. "Sorry I'm late," said Maurice's mother. "I had a very important meeting." All eyes were immediately drawn to her. She wore a light gray pantsuit with the top buttons undone. She wore Prada glasses and carried a Gucci bag around her shoulder, along with black high heels with red showing underneath. A large diamond ring twinkled on her left hand, along with the diamond bracelet on her right. She made her way to the front of the class and introduced herself. Little Willie's ears didn't perk up until he heard her say, "I help people feel better." He then slid to the edge of his seat. "I am a pharmaceutical rep," she said. She talked about the pills she sold to doctors and how those pills helped their patients deal with pain. She called the pills revolutionary and miraculous and life-saving. And with each adjective she added to the list, the closer to the edge little Willie slid, until he nearly fell out of his chair entirely. She then went on to talk about how the pills were made, about the scientists who performed experiments in laboratories until they found the proper formula, and how they experimented with animals and then humans to cure all sorts of ailments. She talked about the studies and how they received approval from the government, and how she went to doctor offices to tell them about their pills, and how she got paid handsomely to do so, and how she got to go to extravagant conferences, and how she now owned a Porsche and a Lambo, and... "Are there other pills?" Little Willie interrupted her. "There are millions of pills in the world, and every day hundreds more are being made. Do any of them cure sadness?" "They may not cure sadness," she said. Then she looked around at the other parents and added, "But the money sure does help." When the parents had all left, and the cookies had all been eaten, and the container of hot cocoa had been emptied, and the students had returned to their original seats, the teacher asked them what they had learned. Little Willie was the first to raise his hand. "I learned what I want to do when I grow up," he said. "I'm going to be the scientist who creates a pill that gets rid of all the sadness in the world," he said. "And I'm going to call it the Be Gone pill, because it's going to make all the sadness in the world be gone. Everybody in the world will be saying, 'Bye-bye, sadness. Bye-bye.'" Little Willie dedicated the rest of his childhood to learning all he could about pharmaceuticals. And when he wasn't busy studying, he was in his chemistry teacher's laboratory experimenting with anything he could get his hands on. He joined clubs and created others. He entered into every competition he could find, winning numerous awards and earning tens of thousands in prizes and scholarships. And when the time came, he was accepted into every university he applied to, including a full-ride scholarship to the nation's top university for aspiring pharmaceutical scientists like himself, which he eagerly accepted. While there, he took classes in chemistry and biology and physics and pharmaceutical sciences and engineering, passing them all with perfect scores. Meanwhile, he was given unlimited access to the university's many laboratories, and every professor on campus, even those he had never had, came to offer him advice, or simply to watch the young prodigy in action. It was there that he became Little Willie, the pharmaceutical prodigy, the boy who was going to cure sadness. By the end of his second year at the university, Little Willie, the pharmaceutical prodigy, had created the first iteration of the pill he had conceptualized as a kid, the Be Gone pill. He spent the next year experimenting on mice, rats, and guinea pigs, doing various things to induce pain or sadness, then providing them with Be Gone pills and placebos to see their reactions. It took numerous iterations to create a pill that didn't immediately kill his subjects, then countless more before the results started to show, then a few more before he was finally ready to begin testing on human subjects. News of his work spread not only to the professors on campus, but also to the students. "I hear there's a kid who is trying to cure sadness," the whisper said. "He's going to make all the pain in the world go away," said voices in the hall. "My professor says he's going to really do it. She says the kid is a genius." At the beginning of his 4th year, little Willie, the pharmaceutical prodigy, rented out the school auditorium to speak to the 3,086 volunteers who had signed up to participate in the human trials. He thanked them all for coming, then introduced himself and his story. Then he asked the crowd, "How many of you have ever experienced sadness?" Every hand in the auditorium went up. If you could eradicate sadness from your life forever, how many of you would? Again, every hand in the auditorium went up. "Well then," said little Willie, the pharmaceutical prodigy, removing a little white pill from his pocket as he did, "allow me to introduce you to the Be Gone pill." He lifted the pill to his lips, took a small sip of water, and swallowed it down. Within seconds, his face was overcome with an overwhelming happiness. His smile was so large that it burst into laughter. "Say bye-bye to sadness, everybody," said little Willie, the pharmaceutical prodigy, through fits of laughter. And so they all screamed, little Willie, the pharmaceutical prodigy, along with them. "Bye-bye, sadness!" The human trials were an immediate success, and soon the entirety of the school was lined up outside his home in hopes of joining the trials. Then came the professors, then the locals, then the residents of nearby cities, then people from all over the state. Then investors came to help little Willie fund the expansion of Healing Humanity Pharmaceuticals. They backed massive factories across the nation to mass-produce Be Gone pills. They formed a board of directors made up of the nation's most influential business folk. Soon, Healing Humanity Pharmaceuticals was making millions annually, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, then billions. In an instant, it seemed, sadness had been wiped off the face of the earth, and any time it came crawling back, all a person needed to do was pop a Be Gone pill in their mouth, take a swig of water, swallow it down, and wait a few seconds for the overwhelming smile to consume their face. A smile that almost always led to uncontrollable laughter. Seemingly overnight, little Willie had become an international celebrity. And though fame was never a thing he aspired for, it was something he very much enjoyed. The most powerful people in the world lived for the day they would get to shake his hand. The most beautiful models in the world waited in line for the opportunity to date him. Luxury brands sent him items free of charge just so that they could be seen on his person. He sat front row in every theater and was always invited backstage after the show. He was the most famous person on the planet. He was the man who had eradicated sadness. He was the hero the world knew it did not deserve, but was thankful to have. He was the one who had brought happiness to the world. He was a god walking among men. He was no longer little Willie. He was Big Will. Big Will, the goddamn killer of sadness. He was... Until Kurt Bokenon published his article in the New York Times titled Big Will, the Killer of Sadness, or Killer of Men. In this article, Bokenon detailed a 5-year experiment he had conducted, during which he provided 52,390 subjects with varying diets of Be Gone pills. While his experiment confirmed that Be Gone pills did indeed cause happiness, he also noted that many of his subjects were so dangerously happy that they neglected their basic needs. They no longer went to work, no longer paid their bills, and no longer conducted chores around the house, choosing to take another Be Gone pill instead. "But what happens to a man who neglects his obligations?" wrote Kurt Bokenon. "If he neglects his job, then he loses his job. If she neglects to pay her rent, then she is kicked out of her home. And when my subjects began to tell their hunger pains to be gone, replacing their hunger with fits of laughter, what consequence do you think was handed down to them for this neglect? Well, death, of course." Big Will, the killer of sadness and men, collapsed in his chair after reading this article. He fell to the floor. He rolled into the fetal position and held tightly to his knees, and he sobbed. While still lying on the ground, he called an emergency meeting with his board of directors. During the car ride, he formulated his thoughts. "Hey, Big Will," said his driver when they pulled up in front of the Healing Humanity Pharmaceuticals office building, "don't listen to that crazy old man, okay? I take Be Gone pills every day. And look at me." He was smiling from ear to ear. "You're a hero, Big Will. A hero." Big Will, the killer of sadness and men, did not respond. He just patted the driver on his shoulder and exited the car. He looked upon the giant building that housed the business he had created from nothing. It was a beautiful building, an impressive building, and he was going to miss it. But he knew what needed to be done. He stormed into the boardroom with red, puffy eyes and slammed his fists on the table and demanded they remove all their pills from every shelf in America. He declared it was their responsibility, nay, our duty, to keep them away from the public until they had reformulated the pill and had figured out a way to prevent this catastrophe from happening again. He even said softly, maybe sadness can't be cured. Maybe this was all a mistake. Maybe we should just shut our doors. Maybe we should... He collapsed in his chair and held his head in his hands and sobbed some more. William, said one of the board members. He cleared his throat and adjusted his tie. William, we cannot just stop selling our product. But of course we can, said Big Will, and we must. I think you are misunderstanding us here, William, said another board member. It is not that we can't stop selling our product, it's that we won't stop selling it. He's right, William, said a third. Our stocks would plummet. We would be doomed as a business. To this, Big Will stood. He slammed his hands on the table again and he screamed, I do not care about stock prices. Let the business crumble at our feet. Let it all fade away into nothingness. Let the history books forget our names. I don't care. I did not create the Be Gone pill to make money. I did not start this business for the world to know my name. I created it to cure sadness. We owe it to our customers too. No, William, interjected another. We owe our customers, those people, we owe them nothing. We are providing them with a service, William. This is all that we do. We sell them pills. What they do with our pills is up to them, not us. Big Will could not believe what he was hearing. He was devastated. We're sorry, William, said the first. This is a business, after all. The good of the stockholder comes first. That's just how it is. The nearest board member removed from his pocket a bottle of Be Gone pills and set it on the table. Take one, he said. It'll help. Big Will, the killer of sadness and men, looked at the bottle of pills in front of him. He thought of the article written by Kurt Bokenon. He thought of the list of names at the end of it. The names of all the people who had died as a result of the pills. His pills. He looked up at the board members. He studied their faces. He remembered the day he met them all. He remembered the speech he gave them. A speech about saving humanity. Above their head, he saw the ticker that displayed their current stock price. He watched it rise a penny at a time. He thought again of the list of names. He looked back at the bottle of pills. Fine, he said. He poured himself a handful of pills, far more than he had ever taken before, and swallowed them down. Before he knew it, the tears had dried, and the words of Kurt Bokenon had disappeared from his mind. He was instead filled with thoughts of all the wonderful things that had happened in his life. He was a very rich man, an international superstar, one who was worshipped by all types of people. The farmer in Idaho and the actress in Hollywood, cover models and fishermen, the president of the United States and the driver of his private car. He grabbed the board member nearest him and kissed him. I love you, man, he said. Then he stood on the table and handed every board member a Be Gone pill. Take one, he said. Take one. Everybody take a Be Gone pill. And as they sat there in the boardroom, laughing hysterically, instead of formulating a plan about how they were going to remove their pills from shelves or potentially shut their doors forever, they formulated a plan of expansion. Over the next few months, they tripled the number of factories in their portfolio and doubled the production of all their old factories, creating even more Be Gone pills for even more customers. And on every pill bottle, they printed reminders for their users to eat every day, to drink water, to go to work, to pay their bills, and don't forget to sleep. To combat these issues furthermore, they built Healing Humanity Centers to teach their users how to responsibly use their products. They made these centers into the greatest resorts the world had ever seen. They had large swimming pools and sandy beaches and 5-star cuisine and top-of-the-line workout centers and theaters and beautiful spas and casinos and strip clubs and amusement parks. People deliberately stopped taking care of their basic needs just so they could spend a month or two at one of them. They treated their visits like trading cards, collecting every resort they possibly could. The stock prices soared, higher than any stock before it, and the fame of Big Will, the killer of sadness, grew with it. Before long, that little article by Kurt Bokenon, once believed to be the potential downfall of healing humanity pharmaceuticals, had become a complete laughingstock. He was fired from the New York Times, and his reputation was obliterated, and his kids disowned him, and his wife left him. And when he, as a result of this mockery, killed himself, Saturday Night Live performed the most popular cold open in the show's history. In that sketch, right before the actor playing Kurt Bokenon went to hang himself, a second actor portraying Big Will, the killer of sadness, entered the apartment. "Wait!" he yelled. "Kurt Bokenon, don't do it! Do not kill yourself! Take one of these Be Gone pills instead. It'll cure your pain. It'll make all the sadness go away." Big Will ran to Kurt Bokenon as quickly as he could and gestured to him with one small white pill. Kurt Bokenon, with the rope already tied around his neck, looked at the pill, then looked at Big Will. "Big Will," said Kurt Bokenon, "I will never take one of your pills. You, sir, you are killing humanity." "Me?" said Big Will, the killer of sadness. "Killing humanity? I offer them happy pills. You're the one who killed yourself." And the crowd, high on Be Gone pills, laughed hysterically as the actors playing Kurt Bokenon and Big Will, the killer of sadness, turned to the camera and yelled in unison, "Live from New York, it's Saturday night!"